My guest today on the Crested Butte Home podcast is Steve Banks, and Steve is an IFMGA guide, which means that he's basically got a doctorate in guiding, is what we'll call it, and he can guide anywhere, basically in the world. So great conversation. Anyone who knows me knows that I love backcountry skiing, ski mountaineering, climbing mountains. So this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart as well, and if you've ever wondered what it's like to be a guide, or if you've been wondering how to get into, rock climbing or backcountry skiing, I would certainly suggest just going out with a guide and learning everything you can from them. So, had a lot of fun talking today with Steve, and please subscribe to the Crested Butte Home podcast on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or anywhere else that you listen. And please leave me a rating or review, and let's get on with the show. Today on Crested Butte Home, we are here with Steve Banks. So Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and all of that.
Well, I was born in the great bicentennial year of 1976. Grew up in Vermont, and was fortunate enough to be raised in a very active and outdoorsy family. And Nordic skiing was always a big part of our lives when we were kids.
Yeah.
And you could call it backcountry skiing, but back then it was just kind of like skiing in Vermont. It was a lot of backcountry skiing, hacking around on telemark equipment in the woods, and that was just kind of what we did. And grew up as a skier, and skiing was always like a huge part of my life and my whole family's life. So it was just something that I was always doing and always into.
What was like your closest ski area or whatever?
Smuggler's Notch.
Yeah, nice.
Great place. Actually, when I was younger, we lived in a little town called Bethel in the middle of the state. And we didn't really have a local ski area, but we went to several sort of very classic Vermont places, Sonnenberg and Suicide Six.
Okay.
I think, if I remember right, Sonnenberg had 2 pommel lifts, and Suicide Six actually had a chairlift.
Yeah, I was going to say I hadn't heard of Sonnenberg, but
yeah.
I think I've heard of Suicide
Sonnenberg,
Six.
I think, has been revamped into some sort of like kind of exclusive club type thing that still has 2 pommel lifts.
Oh, nice. That's cool though. That exists.
Yeah, very family oriented kind of stuff. No frills, and then our big excursions would be go down to Killington. Killington was maybe 45 minutes away.
That's not
certainly
not
that far by Colorado standards, but in Vermont it's halfway across the state.
Right.
And I remember they would always have on Wednesdays they would have free Vermonter Day. If you showed up with a Vermont ID, you got to ski for free.
Oh wow!
And so my dad's the biggest ski bum I know, and he would pull us out of school and take us down there. And if he couldn't, I remember a couple of times my grandma, my dad's mom would come. She'd take us out of school, take us down there. She'd just sit in the lodge and read a book all day while Jeff and I went skiing.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, my mom was more of a book by the fire person too.
Yeah.
But
and then we moved a little further north near Burlington, and then Smuggler's Notch was 20 minutes up the road. That was our ski area.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you are a guide, both AMGA and IFMGA. I think I said that right.
Yeah, you nailed it.
So tell us what that process is like, getting those certifications.
It's evolved a lot, sort of since I started, and I think the biggest difference now is that there's more courses, and I think the trainings are a bit more arduous. But essentially, the IFMGA is the International Federation of Mountain Guide Associations, and so they sort of set the standards and the protocols for each member country to be a part of. So if you want to be a part of the IFMGA, your training and certifications have to meet these standards. And then there's other requirements as well. And so in the U.S., we have the AMGA, the American Mountain Guides Association.
Right.
Each country can decide how they want to set up their training program as long as they meet the requirements.
Okay.
So in the U.S., because we're such a large and diverse country, and there's a lot of really good rock climbing guides who don't ski.
Yeah.
So they might not end up with their IFMGA stamp, but they can still get certified in the U.S. as a rock guide.
Because there's, three parts to IFMGA?
Yeah, there's 3 disciplines and then a few offshoots. So there's the rock discipline, alpine, and ski.
Okay.
And if you take all the courses and pass all your exams in each of those 3 disciplines, then you've got your IFMGA license.
Okay. And I might be mistaken on this, but it wasn't that long ago that IFMGA was basically like, you Americans don't know what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I think there's
still
a bit of that sentiment.
Okay.
No, we're definitely among the newcomers.
Yeah.
IFMGA, and I don't know the stats off the top of my head. I should. Now I'm an instructor for the AMGA, and in the baseline courses, we talk a lot about the history of the AMGA and IFMGA, so up-and-coming guides understand it.
Yeah.
And I always have to refresh myself before I teach that lesson. But the IFMGA has been around for a long time. And it started in Europe, basically France, Italy, and Austria, and then Switzerland came on board. And it was a way for them because, as you know, you've skied over there a fair bit. In a day, it's easy to cross those boundaries. You start your day in France, you end in Italy, you bounce over to Switzerland. And so they wanted to make sure that if you were an Italian-trained guide and you came to France, you at least had similar qualifications and skills as a guide.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So they kind of started it all as a way to deal with their unique border crossing instances in the Alps, and then other countries joined on and wanted to be a part as well.
Okay.
So Sweden's in there, Spain is in there. They're starting to get more and more South American countries. Bolivia, Peru, Nepal is in, and some of these actually have Bolivia. They don't really have a ski program. They're not big skiers down there. So they have a caveat. If you're a Bolivian IFMGA guide, you actually can't work in the ski discipline.
Okay.
So they have these little caveats.
They actually do. It's not like a full, it's like an asterisk or something.
Exactly. You get an asterisk. Yeah. Huh. So in the U.S. we have the 3 disciplines, and then there's some offshoots from there. Like you can get a ice instructor certification if you're a guide who works down in Uray a lot, something like that, and you want to get certified in that discipline, but maybe you're not going into the full alpine track, the big mountain stuff. You're not really doing that. So there's different offshoots.
Gotcha. So as an IFMGA guide, you get to travel a lot. So what's your typical year look like? I mean, you guys kind of bounce around from. There's seasons, right?
Yeah, there's seasons. And I would say a typical year is not very typical.
Okay. An ideal year? I don't know.
An ideal year, I ski mostly powder. I climb sunny limestone over the ocean. And then at some point I have to go to work. Okay. It's evolved for me quite a bit over the years. At first, I started my guiding career here in Crested Butte, working for Crested Butte Mountain Guides.
Was that Jason at that point, or was it before that?
It was actually Alan.
Okay.
In the early years, and then Jason when he took it on. And then during Jason's tenure is when I've completed all my AMGA exams, got my IFMGA stamp, and I started working over in Chamonix quite a bit.
Okay.
My brother had already kind of laid some framework there. He was very invested in the process as well. He got his IFMGA badge, and he promptly moved to Chamonix.
Like year-round, right?
Yeah. So I had a good in over there. So actually, even before I finished the process, you get to a certain level, and then you're considered an aspirant guide.
Okay.
And there was different rules back then, and I was actually legally able to work in Europe as an aspirant.
Okay.
So I started going over there then, and that's when I kind of got away from Crested Butte Mountain Guides, because I wanted to guide in the bigger mountains, more technical routes and things. And in Chamonix, you have amazing tram access, and you're suddenly in the Alpine.
Right, instantly.
Yeah. Whereas in the U.S., you walk for 4 days to go climb a half-day, really cool route.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to get over there and do that. So I really took on that track, and then winters were tough because there wasn't a lot of ski guiding work
in Chamonix.
In the U.S.
Here? Okay.
Yeah. And in Chamonix, I really like the winter, and obviously their ski terrain is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The access is incredible. but there's a lot of people. And I felt like a lot of the decision making of what am I going to ski today wasn't based on safety and avalanche concerns. It was based on getting there first before anybody else.
That's the thing. And not just there. I think that's kind of grown in other places too.
Big time. Yeah, Jackson's seeing that kind of stuff. Even Crested Butte starting to see it now in the backcountry where it's like, where are you guys going? I got to get there first.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like that, and I also didn't want to fully move away from Crested Butte. Crested Butte's been my home for over 20 years now, so I didn't want to be gone that long. So going over to the Alps and working there in the summers was great, and then trying to piece together my winters in the Southwest was working. It was fun. I could get enough ski guide work. There's always a ton of work in teaching avalanche courses. So that was a big part of my business there. And then spring and fall were, basically the shoulder seasons. And they were good times to piece together some other sort of expeditionary type things, go down to Mexico and climb Orizaba, week-long trips like that. But for me, it was more time to like kind of recover, chill out.
Be home.
Take it easy. And then, when the Irwin cat skiing operation started up again, I started working and guiding there on the Snowcat, and that was a great avenue to get more work at home in the wintertime. And I wasn't traveling as much, and I wasn't teaching avalanche courses as much, and I could just go to work as a ski guide. And that was pretty sweet. It's fun terrain up there. It snows a ton up there. Used to. We had great powder days, and I come home 6-7 o'clock. I'm at home. It was awesome. It's a lot like going to work. So that was great, and then I got more and more invested with the Irwin Guides organization and 11 Experience, and started working with their international operations in France and in Iceland. Most recently, a big thing for me has been running the heli ski operation at Depler Farm for 11 Experience,
which is Iceland.
That's been a big part of my springs and keeps me really busy. And it's cool because it extends my ski season for a couple extra months. It gives me a couple extra months of good ski guiding work, and it's very engaging and fun. The snowpack up there is unlike anything I've ever seen or even learned about. So it's always been interesting to me to kind of figure out that snowpack and try to guess what's happening. And
how so? Can you expand on that?
It's very maritime, obviously. Iceland as a country is actually smaller than Colorado. Right? And it's in the North Atlantic Ocean, so it's surrounded by water. So much higher moisture content, but it's also considered Arctic maritime because it's very north in latitudes and it's cold up there. Although because of the Atlantic jet stream, it's not as cold as you would think it is. It's not that bad. So, certainly much less of a persistent slab and deep persistent slab problem than we see in Colorado. Right? This year, we actually had a couple of bouts of persistent slab problems up there that we were like, whoa, there's facets in the snowpack. We don't see that in Iceland too much.
You weren't used to that.
Does
it get colder than, say, like Alaska? Is that... But because you're saying it's not similar to Alaska, though.
No, I wouldn't say it gets cold. I mean, minus 10 Celsius. Up there is cold, so it's not wicked cold. No, not by any means. People have this thought that it's Iceland, it's Eskimos, and it's just brutally cold all the time. It's like, no, it's never really warm.
No, the ocean,
it's mild.
The ocean's gonna mellow that out.
So consequently, you get storms, you have a lot of direct action avalanches during and right after the storms, and then avalanche problems tend to heal up pretty quick, and you get a very homogeneous snowpack. But the wind up there is ferocious, and that does some pretty crazy things. And I haven't quite totally figured it out, but there's this phenomenon where obviously there's a high moisture content in the atmosphere, so when the wind blows, it's sort of transmitting some of that moisture into the snowpack.
Kind of like rime ice into the snowpack.
A lot of rime, a lot of weird rime crusts that make for interesting sounds while skiing. Still makes really good skiing. But also a consistency of snow that they call harn, which is basically this. It's like ice, but not fully ice. It's the kind of stuff that you can't really get an edge in. you're like, okay, I'm just going to hang on and slide this until it stops, or for whatever other reason I can control my speed.
That sounds fun on a steep route.
Yeah, so that was eye-opening. In the early days, we're like, whoa, this is pretty brutal. Okay, make sure we don't find that snow.
Yeah.
Stay away from that. But also just really good powder skiing, kind of, it's not champagne powder like it is here in Colorado. But great pow skiing, a thicker consistency, and then the corn skiing is what I've found the most amazing.
Yeah,
and I've skied corn up there that feels like powder.
Sure,
it's like boot top, creamy corn, and you're kind of like, okay, it's spring, it's corn skiing, and then you're like, oh my god, that was really good corn skiing.
No, corn skiing when it's good, it's good. But yeah.
And then watching that transformation, we'll get a storm, and you ski powder, and then it'll warm up, and you start skiing north faces to try to harvest the powder. And then by the time the north face is starting to transition and get funky, the south side is like full corn.
Okay.
And the way the snowpack drains has always blown my mind. Like points where if we were in Colorado, I'd be like, this snow is way too wet. We're not skiing this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like kind of not that big of a problem.
Kind of like we get finally in late summer, or I guess it'd be late spring is what I should be saying. But yeah, all of a sudden it's drained, and it's wet, but the water's going somewhere, so it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So it's okay. You're like, that's interesting. So it's always been very interesting for me. My whole, basically all of my avalanche knowledge and sort of my career in the snowpack has been based in Colorado and dealing with continental type snowpack problems. Yeah. And so transitioning to a very different snowpack climate has been really cool.
Nice.
And kind of trying to understand it and stuff that I've learned about, and I've taught it in courses for years, and I'm like, oh, now I see it.
Nice. Yeah. Now you actually get to
it's
experience
actually here.
it.
This is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So backing up a little bit, so you're based here in Crested Butte, Colorado, and we don't have a singular draw the way that your guide friends in Jackson have the Grand, or Seattle has Rainier or something like that. I mean, we've got 54 14ers, and you can walk up all of them. So how does that affect especially I guess your mountaineering portion of your guiding? Yeah,
it makes it a little tricky for sure. And we've often talked about that. When I was running Irwin Guides, we always talked about the struggles we'd have with marketing. Like, what's our draw? What's our Grand Teton?
Yeah.
How do we get people to come here and do stuff? And Americans by nature are hesitant to hire guides.
Yeah.
In my opinion, in the way I've thought about this over the years is, in Europe, it's very common. You hire guides to go in the mountains, and that's what you do.
Right.
And often your guide becomes your climbing partner.
Right.
And you're hiring this guy to go out, and it's what you do every year to go out and do these routes. And in the U.S., there's almost this hesitancy and almost a bit of a stigma. Like, oh, you did it with a guide.
Yeah,
you
get half credit.
Yeah, totally. And in the U.S., there's a lot more on the education side. People want to take a course and learn the skills so that they can go out and do it on their own.
Yeah, rugged individualists, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I think in ski guiding, that's the easiest way to see it, in that far and away, I've taught more avalanche courses than the numbers of ski guiding days I've done. Maybe not true since I started working on the snowcat.
The cat, but if you take the cat out for actual touring.
Backcountry touring. And reason being, people don't want to hire a guide to go out and go skiing. They want to learn the skills so that they can go out and do it on their own.
Yeah.
So you have to adjust your marketing mindset to that and what people want. And I think we're starting to see a shift in that in the U.S. as we have more, obviously a larger population and more people living in cities who want to do these adventure sports that are making it more into the mainstream. Mm-hmm. Even you watch commercials for, whatever drug they're selling on TV, and there's people stand-up paddleboarding and mountain biking,
Right.
Take this heart medication, you can go mountain biking. So people want to do that, and I think now they're more accepting of hiring guides to take them out, and they kind of want to get to the meat of it. They don't want to spend as much time learning and figuring it out and mucking around with it. They want to get right into the good stuff that they've seen on YouTube.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that was another question I had for you for sure. I mean, I spent a month in Chamonix. I didn't hire a guide. I probably should have. I would have found. Well, actually, I kind of lucked out and found some good stuff right after that. But
just follow the tracks.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. But no, I mean, it's even for just a day in a new area, someone with the local knowledge of where the good snow is and things like that is, but it's overlooked. At least it has been. So let's take a quick break.
The big news in this week's Crested Butte Real Estate Minute is the announcement of Vail Resorts purchasing Crested Butte Mountain Resort. And yes, that is big news. According to the newspaper, property values may increase as much as 20% in similar situations. I personally think that's going to be a little bit overstated, but at the end of the day, it depends on what Vail decides to do and how they decide to invest in Crested Butte Mountain Resort in terms of infrastructure and things like that. So it's going to be an interesting time in Crested Butte real estate this summer of 2018. And we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. If you'd like to contact me about real estate, my website is crestedbutterealestateagent.com, and you can contact me there. You can also sign up for my monthly newsletter there. So my name is Frank Kinsella, and let's get back to the show.
Guiding is generally permitted in the United States. So how does that work if you have a client relationship that you've developed here in Colorado and your client says, hey, I want to go ski the Grand Teton, or I want to go up Rainier. Yeah. How does that work?
It's tricky. And it can even be more localized than that. Summertime, people say, I want to go climb Capitol Peak.
And that's not in your...
Irwin Guides doesn't have a permit for Capitol.
Right.
I personally don't hold any permits for anything.
Right.
So you always have to find these avenues to make it work. And what's cool is that most guides and guide services understand and respect that. And I think they used to be very protective of their terrain. And they're like, no, this is us.
Right.
We have this is our cash cow.
Right.
And now they're becoming more accepting and open to having the term of sort of guest guides come in.
Right.
And I've found, and I often tell this to up-and-coming guides, one of the biggest benefits to having your IFMGA or any AMGA training and certification in the U.S. is that it opens those doors to guest guiding for you.
Yeah, I think so.
And I saw it. I was working on the flip side when I was running Irwin Guides where, ex-guide would call me up from somewhere else and like, hey, I got this client who wants to do this and you have the permit. Can I guide there? And if I don't know them personally, I'm like, well, what's your resume? What's your background? How do I know that you're going to do this in a safe manner?
Right. Because it comes back on you.
It comes back on us. Yeah. That's that guide service is taking on the liability for that guide.
Right.
And trusting that they're making good, appropriate, safe decisions out there. So for me, it'd be pretty easy to be like, are you trained and certified in that discipline?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you are? Great. I know that somebody has vetted you and said that you're a good guide, that you're qualified to do this. And otherwise, it's kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't know who you are. So for me, that's opened up a lot of avenues. And through my network of guides that I know, guide services that I know, and because of my credentials, it's pretty easy for me to drop an email and say, hey, can I come as a guest guide? I want to bring these clients and I want to do this thing.
Yeah.
And usually it's pretty easy for me to find avenues. And it's, it creates a lot more paperwork. Technically, the guide service has to hire me and put me on their payroll. And the money transactions have to happen through their guide organization.
Sure.
So there's some hoops to jump through.
And they take their cut, I'm sure.
Oh,
That's fine.
Oh, yeah. And they're often happy for that,
Sure.
But at the same time, when you get these permits, you have certain user days. I
was going to say, they
have
only
a limit
have so
to how
many.
much you can use. And so there are places and peaks where it's really hard because that company is like, we're already maxed.
Right.
Like, we have to turn away our own clientele.
So why would we take you at a smaller cut?
Yeah, exactly. So there are places that are still challenging, and it's actually a really big topic in the AMGA right now is fighting for access, especially for certified guides, to get the government entities, the Forest Service and the Park Service and the BLM, to open the doors and be more accepting to certified guides who want and need to travel to these different locations.
How many permits are there usually for like a given mountain, or does that vary totally?
It really depends.
Because here there's two, right? All right.
Here there's two, and that's the burden on the land manager's side is they have to do impact studies, which often are full NEPA studies. They've got to do an environmental impact study. They got to figure out what the carrying capacity of the land is for these permits to be issued.
Which is crazy because there's like 1 million backcountry skiers and there's going to be 1 million plus 20% next year.
And that's always the trick. They can't limit the public use, right?
Right.
And it's the public's land, anybody can use it. But they can limit the commercial use.
Right.
So they often come down much harder on the commercial use. And we're trying to demonstrate that guided access is actually better than public access. You know, you look at what's going on around here with the amount of use in the summertime and places just getting trashed, right?
Right.
Driving vehicles through fields of wildflowers, going off trail, new user trails getting created all over the place. And that's something that guides and guide services are very in tune with. And we teach our clients, like, this is how you're supposed to
leave no trace
use
and all
this
that
land.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You got to poop in a bag and carry it out. That's the way it goes. That kind of stuff. And so we're trying to get the land managers to come around to that idea that, like, you guys should actually prefer that the general public goes with a guide who shows them how to do it appropriately, rather than just goes out there and drives wherever they want, poops wherever they want.
It's tough too. I mean, one place I could think of would be the Lake City Ice Park.
Yeah.
I've certainly been down there, and there's just ropes from left to right.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I want to climb too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the flip side. You know, Ouray Ice Park is really dealing with it now because it's become incredibly popular, and it's super busy. Weekdays, mid-January, all through the year, Ouray is just jammed. And they've had a couple of really warm winters, and so they have less ice, and so there's less routes to climb, and they're trying to figure out, like, what's that balance. And the guides, guide services, guide service owners, and the AMGA have really come to the table to fight for access for the guides, because that would be the easiest thing for them to limit. They have a harder time limiting the general public coming in. But they can say, oh, you're commercial use, so we're going to limit you to this many days per year. And so we're trying to tell them, you know, if you get more guides involved, your safety margin goes up.
Sure.
They're doing it in a more appropriate way, ideally.
Yeah.
And you can manage that better. You can put rules around that.
Yeah.
And there already are rules. Like, you can only occupy 3 anchor stations at a given time.
And that's something that happens in Lake City.
For like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
You can't just put your ropes across it. Like, I got here first and hang your ropes.
The
like,
whole
it's
thing's
mine. So we're trying to, you know, be active voices at the table. Just recently, there was a movement called Climb the Hill, and a lot of different representatives from the AMGA, the CGC, which is the Certified Guides Cooperative, which is working towards access for certified guides, Access Fund, American Alpine Club. They all got together, went to Washington, and are lobbying for better recreational access and guided access, to make sure that our public lands don't just turn into oil and gas farms and things that may or may not be happening in our current political climate.
Right. So kind of changing gears slightly. So we've talked about it, but there's so many different facets for guiding, from the avalanche education to ski touring, rock climbing, ice climbing, mountaineering, and big mountain mountaineering too. You know, Aconcagua, Denali, Nepal, whatever. What's your favorite personally?
Ski and POW, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Skiing's always been my passion. It's always been my thing. It's the thing that I enjoy the most. Rock and alpine, you know, are great for the summer seasons, obviously. But I also really enjoy being in the mountains and moving in the mountains. So it's for me, it's more of a seasonal thing. You know, if I can ski, I want to ski.
Yeah.
And when the snow dries up, I'll climb something.
Right.
That's cool.
Nice. Do you find that skiing is actually kind of one of the harder ones to do, especially from a safety standpoint? I mean, on belay, you're kind of on belay, especially with the self-belay device anymore.
Yeah. A common term we use when I'm teaching these guide courses and in the ski discipline, we talk about the invisible rope. How do you create an invisible rope for your clients? Because you don't really have control over them when they're skiing, right?
But there are places you don't want them to go, and you've identified it, but they might not get why you're saying don't do that.
Exactly. And they might not respect the boundaries. And
sure,
common technique is like, here's my ski track. stay to the right of my ski
Sure.
track because there's certain doom to the left.
Right.
And you try to fence them away from the bad stuff. And it's a relationship you have to build with your clients.
Yeah.
And some of them are immediately respectful and they follow the protocols. And sometimes they're even like more timid than I want them to be. I'm like, you kind of go for it. Today's the day.
It's okay.
And other times you just have these wild cards who they either blatantly disregard the safety measures that you're putting in place, or more commonly, as soon as they drop in, they lose all perspective of what's going on.
Just
you told them, hey, see that tree? Stay to the left of the tree. And as soon as they start making turns, they have no idea where that tree is anymore.
They're like looking at their ski tips, maybe.
Yeah, something. They just don't quite clue in. So you have to build that relationship, and then you start to build this trust. So I have clients that I've worked with for years and years and years, and now we've got a good relationship and good trust. And I know what they can do. I know where they can ski, and I know what rules they follow. Or on the flip side, I know that there's other ones who I'm like, I know this guy, like, for whatever reason, he just can't seem to stop above me. Like I told him, he always skis below me or always goes over there, And so I have to adjust my safety margins accordingly.
Yeah.
In backcountry skiing, it's not nearly as much of a problem because you have that whole up track to like sort of get to know people, decipher people. You just have more time. Mm-hmm. In mechanized guiding, you get a lot more people who show up for the day. They want to pound it as hard as they can,
sure,
and then they're gone.
Like skier mentality,
totally.
Like, let's go crush it.
So you don't get to build that relationship as much. So it's something that you're always sort of one of my techniques is always to build into the terrain. Start with easy stuff. Figure out what the clients are all about. Figure out what they can handle, what their abilities are, what their mental capacity for following the rules is, and then I adjust my terrain choices and my safety margins accordingly.
Yeah.
And if they're following the rules, then I can push it a little bit harder. And if they're having trouble conforming to the instructions that I put out, then, okay, I have to have a wider margin for error.
Yeah.
But in rock climbing, it's like, you're tied into the rope. I can control where you go because I'm holding on to the other side of the rope.
Like, I know I feel uncomfortable if I start straying. Like, I realize the pendulum's going to happen, for instance, if it's on top, which it probably is a lot of time. But anyway, how hard is it for you to feel responsible for your clients? Because that would people have asked me, like, why don't you guide? You love skiing. And I'm like, nah, I don't. I don't even like feeling responsible for myself and my partners that much. You know what I mean? Like, for real. Like, I can't imagine someone I don't know or just, like, had a couple hours with and being the decision maker. And basically.
That's a good question, a really interesting question. And I think it's something that when I'm teaching these guide courses to newer guides just breaking into it, I think that's a part of it. Maybe they don't quite feel that weight as much as I want them to. Like, you're responsible for these people, and if something happens, that's you.
Yeah.
You did that. And thinking back in my career, it was a learning curve. I definitely got over my head a few times when I was a younger guide.
Sure.
There's a lot of ambition to, like, want to do bigger routes or ski bigger lines or whatever. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm a guide. This is going to be great. I can totally handle it. And then you have a close call or two and you're like, whoa, that kind of hit home for real. And I kind of dodged a bullet there. And I never want to be that guy who has to call somebody's, wife or husband or kids and be like, so they didn't make it back today.
Right. Yeah.
I never want that to happen.
Knock on wood.
So feeling that weight and that burden is something that you got to keep in your mind.
Yeah.
And in the ski world, we talk a lot about the human factors and the decision-making process. And if you can keep that in the forefront of your mind, I think it helps you make better decisions with a higher degree of safety.
Yeah.
If you're thinking in that direction.
Yeah. So along those same lines, when you're skiing with your buddies who aren't guides and you're not guiding, do you just get forced into being the guide, or do you try to, like, take a step back and make them talk and do their own stuff?
It's a tricky thing. Actually, I wrote an article for Backcountry Magazine kind of addressing that. And one of the things I like to do, I mean, on the one hand, I I don't get out to ski with my buddies as much as I would like to.
Sure, yeah, you're working. And,
If I have a day that I'm not in my ski boots, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm good. And if I do go out, a lot of times it's with Keitha, with my girlfriend, or with my dad, or something where I am a little bit more naturally in that guide role. When I go out with friends, I really do try to step back and I sort of preface the day with like, hey guys, I'm not guiding.
Right.
Don't look to me for the answer today. And if anything, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and I'm going to let you guys make decisions and I'll go with the flow. Unless I feel like
unless
the
you're
flow
like,
is going in a bad
what
direction.
are you doing?
Because I think it is, it's very easy for them to just sort of sit back and be like, well, Steve, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be that way. I'm not being paid that day, so I don't want that pressure and I don't want to be responsible. And it's not even that like, oh, it's not my day at work. I don't want to have to work. I've been doing it for so long that that's just the way my brain operates now.
Yeah.
But I want them to be engaged in the process, and I want them to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of your favorite places to ski, guide, climb, etc.?
Crested Butte.
Sure. Nice.
I love skiing in Crested Butte, man. When it's a good year here, it's
good.
So good.
Yeah.
When it's a bad year, it can be so bad.
It's pretty bad this year.
Yeah. Japan's been on my hit list the last couple of years. I've been spending some time over there, and that's pretty phenomenal. It's a really cool experience.
Nice.
The powder skiing is just off the charts, but they don't have the steeps.
Yeah, that's what I always hear.
Yeah, it's steep enough to be engaging and fun, but it's not crazy. Chamonix, I love it for the steeps.
Right.
You can go out and ski these huge faces with technical rappels, technical ascents, like for real no fall zones.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Chamonix is awesome in that regard. Iceland is super cool because the terrain is so interesting. I always tell people it's like skiing on the moon. There's about a dozen trees on the whole island. It's just this crazy mountainous landscape that drops into the ocean. You can see the ocean from the top of just about any peak.
Yeah.
And so that makes a really cool experience there.
Yeah.
Overall, I would say probably my favorite is Crested Butte, though.
Awesome.
And there's still so much to ski here. I still have I got to get around to going and skiing that. Mount Gunnison, I've always wanted to go ski that.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there.
It's just so far away.
It is definitely not
there's
close.
All these stuff here, and I think we have a really cool blend of great snow, good vert. You can get the steeps, assuming the snowpack allows you to.
Yeah, or at the ski area. I mean, the ski area is just totally entertaining for me.
Yeah, exactly. Or like last year when we had great snowpack and we had great skiing all the way through January and into February. And being able to go sleigh big lines with a stable snowpack here was just that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we get another one of those soon.
Yeah. Canada's right up there, though. I think Canada also has a great blend of, more vert than Colorado, more stable snowpack, steeper than Japan, more blower pow than Iceland.
So you're talking interior then? Interior BC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a love affair with Whistler for sure.
Totally. Never been to Whistler. It's on the list.
Oh man,
Revelstoke's got a spot in my near future.
Yeah,
I love it up there.
Yeah,
I got a good guide buddy up there, and might be spending some time there next winter with him.
Nice. You kind of just started to answer this, but Crested Butte is home for you. So why do you continue to make it your home?
God, there's no place like Crested Butte, is there?
No. It feels good coming around that corner and seeing town.
Totally.
When you've been away for a while.
I love the community. The same thing everybody says. It's almost becoming cliche.
Yeah, well, and that's why I'm doing some of these. That it is a community, and it's awesome to talk to people.
I love the community, and quite honestly, I think I still have such a great relationship with Crested Butte because I am fortunate to be able to travel a lot. So I don't spend all my time here.
Sure.
I can understand how a lot of people spend several years and they're like, I don't know, I got to find something else. I need something bigger or different, or I'm over this or I'm over that.
Sure.
I can totally understand that, but because I do get to travel a lot, that when I come back to Crested Butte, I can really appreciate Crested Butte for what it's for.
Yeah.
And when I am traveling, it does tend to be during the busier times of Crested Butte. I'm not around in July and August here.
Right.
I'm not around that much. The last couple of years I've been around more. But if you're going to be away from Crested Butte, that's a good time to be away.
Which is when everyone is actually here.
Yeah. And right now in May, like, this is my favorite time to be here.
For sure. For sure.
It's just killer. You walk down the street and you know everybody.
Right.
You can find a parking place on Elk. Not that I drive anywhere.
You want to grab a bite to eat? Just sit down.
Totally. And that's what I really like Crested Butte for. People are always shocked when I say it, but this is the biggest town that I've ever lived in, other than stints in Gunnison when I was going to college.
Wow.
I always grew up in small towns. I'm fairly uncomfortable in big towns.
Yeah.
Cities are cool for short stints for me, and then I'm
Sure.
like, I got to get out of here. I can't handle it. So I really like that here. I love that, I mean, my truck, when I renew my car insurance, and they're like, how many miles do you drive in a year? And I'm like, 8,000? Not that much. Yeah, I don't drive. I ride my bike everywhere. I walk around. I just love that.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Where can people learn more about you if they need some guiding services?
Oh, man, give me a couple of months and they can check out my website, stevebanksmountainguide.com.
Okay.
Right now it's fairly old and outdated. But I am still pleasantly surprised. Occasionally I'll get a note. Somebody's like, oh, yeah, let's check out your website. It's really cool. And I'm like, really? Because I haven't even looked at it in years.
Is Mountain Guide spelled out, or did you?
Yeah, Mountain Guide.
Okay, full tag.
Yeah.
Anything else I should have asked that I didn't?
Only because I just listened to your podcast with Neil Belchenko, and he said, I really like IPAs. I really don't like IPAs.
I'm going to go interview Dave Norns at Earn Brewing later today, and I'm going to tell him how much I hate IPAs.
Yeah, nice. I'm a brown ale kind of guy.
Yeah, there's a million awesome beer flavors. The thing I hate about them is that they've become, like, that's your only choice almost anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like someplace with 20 taps.
Yeah, this one with triple hops. This one's got 17 hops. And
they're like, we maxed out the IBUs and then put more in. You're like, okay, great, good for you.
I like telling people, I heard this story, I have no idea if it's true or not, but I heard this story that IPAs came about when the British were occupying India.
Yeah, it had
they were sending beer over, and they had to put more hops in it to preserve it for longer.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, it's going to taste bitter, not so good, but that's fine.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, you guys like IPA, and they only made it so that it could travel long distances.
Those hops are just preservatives, really. One last question: who else should I interview?
Oh man, I don't know. What are you looking for? Interesting characters in Crested Butte?
Yeah, totally. Any genre.
Tuck's one of my favorite interesting characters of Crested Butte.
Yeah, who's that?
Tuck, the bus driver?
Oh, Tuck. I didn't hear you say Tuck. Yeah. Tuck would be...
You gotta catch him on the right day, though. When he's in an appropriate mindset.
Yes.
Not an inappropriate mindset.
I was going to say, I could lose the clean rating for sure. Perfect. All right.